Spurs are a threat at every set piece. They could score from any throw or any corner.
And it's the Rory Delap renaissance, is it not?
There is no space. It's just a traffic jam. It's a blue and white traffic jam.
What is the answer?
Crossover chaos is the way for them to go.
Tottenham versus Chelsea is one of the most eagerly awaited London derbies of the season. In fact, one of the most eagerly awaited Premier League derbies of the season. Tottenham haven't beaten Chelsea at home for 3 years, and both of them go into this game in differing form. A defeat for Tottenham away at Newcastle in the League Cup, whereas a late victory for Chelsea, 4-3 in the dramatic win at Wolverhampton Wanderers. I'm Will Pugh. That right there is Sun Sports tactical guru Dean Scoggins. This is the Tactics Exposed Team Talk studio, where we will be previewing, Dino, as ever, that massive mouth-watering clash on Saturday night. Tottenham versus Chelsea, is it the one you most look forward to in the season, or is it Arsenal?
Absolutely not. After producer James just wheeled out that stat that we've not won at home for 3 years against them, I don't think we're going to see Ange Postecoglou's halfway line, high line in this game.
No, quite. Well, look, you promised, don't you, for all the Chelsea fans watching, that you are going to concentrate on the Blues as well as Tottenham.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. As everybody who knows who comes to Tactics and Tactics Team Talk every week, and we're very, very level.
Yeah, exactly. Right, let's go straight into question one. Dino, exciting game as this is. This is one about the Blues first off. Why can't Chelsea unlock deep defences? A little bit of a weird season so far. Enzo Maresca getting a bit of grief from the Chelsea fans. What do you think to that one?
Yeah, I think it basically comes from the fact that against the better sides, Liverpool, for example, United, when they had 10 men, Chelsea did much better job at opening teams up, and they're really struggling against low blocks, and they're really struggling against 5 at the back. And when I saw the Wolves team sheet in the Carabao Cup game, I thought, yeah, Wolves are going to go 5 at the back again. And they didn't, and they went with 4, and Chelsea mullered them in the first half with 4 at the back. It could be that Thomas Frank goes to his 5 at the back system again in this. He's done it twice this season so far. We thought he'd do it at Manchester City and he didn't. But the reason for it, right, let's go to the board, is because Chelsea, we know, go to that box midfield.
Correct.
They push the wingers right out wide. They have their man up front. They have a number 10 in behind, and they go to the 3-2-5 shape, where they will push players upfield like that.
Hang on a minute,
okay?
what's that right? So where's the box there?
The box in midfield comes from these players here.
Quite.
Yeah?
Okay, cool.
So then they've got the number 9 and then the 2 in behind. So they create that attacking shape, either with the full-back inverting to the base of midfield, or a lot of times Cucurella or Malo Gusto will go to the point of the box. So they create that box midfield. It's very, very rigid from Maresca. He does it all the time. And what teams are then doing against them when they go to 5 at the back is they push it in there. They have an extra player come in like this. So they go 5 at the back, and they sit in there. And immediately you can see, just from our simple overhead here, there is no space. It's just a traffic jam. It's a blue and white traffic jam, and that's what teams do against Chelsea. And then to get out from there, we saw in the Brentford game, we saw in the Sunderland game, what happens is this Chelsea back 3 pushes further and further up the field. They get more and more possession. At the weekend against Sunderland, the Chelsea back 3 all had over 100 touches each. And that's just madness when I think it was Gui, the centre forward, he had 10 touches in 70 minutes. So that's because of the traffic jam that's happening there. And so teams are then targeting that against them on the counter-attack because it's so congested in here without, obviously, Cole Palmer. So that's why they're having so many problems in that area. There's just too many players in there.
But surely, Dino, any big team in the Premier League who should be striving at the top end of the table will be used in the majority of their matches to playing against teams who go, look, a point will do us here. We'll just sit back and defend. Surely managers of top clubs know how to unpick these systems by now.
Yeah, and there's one of the reasons that City have been better this season until their result last week, and why Arsenal have been so good so far this season is because they've worked out how to play against these 5 at the back formations. And teams like United and Palace going into that 3-4-3 that becomes a 5-4-1 has been the real theme of the season. And yeah, they should be better with it. And when they've played against a back 4, so I'm just going to move it back into a back 4 again. Okay, when they just to view it, when they played against the back 4, what they've done quite well is they've managed to get the wingers over here isolated against the fullbacks.
Okay.
So what they'll do is they'll use either Cucurella or Enzo Fernandez to pin the opposition wide players in this position here, because they've got to be picked up, right? When you're defending against this, they've got to be picked up, which means then they've got to pass to a winger to then isolate them 1v1, okay? But then let's leave exactly as we are and move it into a back 5 again, okay? What then happens is this player can mark this one. So he can go in, he can mark him, he's got him, okay? And then you've still got your extra midfielder to come in and block the passing lanes and block the channels. So that's why they're struggling so much against the 5. And look, I don't think it is going to be the most entertaining game in the first half unless we get it'd be great for me from a tactical point of view. I'm going to really enjoy it, the way it's moved around, not as much because it's Spurs, but that's what they're struggling against. And without a magician like Cole Palmer, they haven't got someone who is going to take the ball in this square here and then turn and beat someone 1v1 in this area here, beat that player, and then turn a defence round like that. So that's what they're really struggling with.
And so when he beats him, obviously, that's when you then regain the numerical advantage.
Exactly.
Or at least sort of, neutralise what Tottenham have been going.
Yeah, and then the second thing to consider as well is that because of that 3-2-5 shape, Reece James has been predominantly playing here as the right of the back 3, and mainly Cucurella pushes into that position there. Opposition teams will say, OK, what we're going to do is occupy the central player and drop in like that, in that 5-4-1 shape.
Right.
And so actually they've got 2 men here who aren't occupied, and that's where you get Achimpong or Fofana with a lot of the ball, with their foot on the ball, looking for that pass, which against the 5-4-1, it's very, very difficult to find.
Well, Dino, I don't love the press at all costs, right? I know it's worked for some teams recently, but I often find it so frustrating, particularly when teams aren't very good at it. And, you know what it's like. Well, I go watch West Ham surrounded by people who want the players shutting down every tackle and sprinting non-stop for the whole game, which just isn't realistic. But I'm often watch games and I'm just like, yeah, let them have it there. Yeah. Let them knock it around at the back all they like. Yeah. Wait, because it's almost like the danger will come to you.
Exactly that. And you can see a real trend happening in the Premier League at the moment about giving up possession.
Of course.
And there's what again.
Moyes ball.
Yeah. But it's not. It's at certain times. And what I think Spurs have done much better under Thomas Frank this season. And look, they're 3rd in the league, having not played very well and not been ridiculously open or entertaining. Lots of set pieces.
How did you actually describe it to me earlier?
Turgid, but 3rd. Yeah. But one of the things they've done really well, just to explain, and you'll absolutely see this on Saturday. So if we move Chelsea into a playing out setup, okay? So again, the box midfield, the 2 wide players, and then the number 9 who will come in and look for the ball to feet, okay? Tottenham will split the game. Okay, so the front 3, let's just say he's looking to play out this way. They'll split the game where they'll press man v man up there, they'll press man v man in there, and then they'll leave everybody else back. So this huge area in here is then open for second ball, running around and stuff like that. And the ball out is probably to a wide man, or if they can overload on a particular side, they can come across here and create this. Then that's probably the ball out. But that is because of Spurs, the way they split it, and they did this against PSG in the Super Cup, that means the ball's got to go aerial because they're blocking these areas really well. As soon as the ball goes aerial, they're man v man. One across, and then in. And at that point, a João Paulinho or a Bentancur will drop into an area there to create the extra space, which is why Spurs have been so difficult to break down on a press, because then a team goes high and it becomes a competition in midfield.
Well, yeah, Dino, that makes sense, but what's the answer? Chelsea fans will be watching this, wanting the answer, not just you telling them there's no way they're going to score when Tottenham sit back.
Oh, I'm absolutely not saying there's no way they're going to score. That's not the route I'm going down at the Tottenham Stadium at all. The answer for me with Maresca is really interesting in the Ajax game and then against Wolves in the first half. The younger players playing actually means they're more chaotic. And it means that, because I hate to say overcoached, that's really unfair, but when players have been playing in a certain way for a long time and we see that, that box midfield is very, very rigid and they go into that position and it's very, very rigid. So Spurs will know that that's going to happen. But what's happened in those other games, particularly Jamie Gittins as being a key to this, and I would like to think Esteval plays in one of these positions with Neto in the other, then it's let's start crossing over. Let's cause some chaos in those positions. And so if you have an attacking midfielder here who runs into a wide position and then you get Gittins come across there, you've had the crossover of those two players running. So what do these defenders do? Do they track their runner and then end up potentially going in the same place and leaving one free? Or do they say, no, we hold our position, which then means you could open up these spaces. So crossover chaos is the way for them to go. Move and try and get a front four rather than a front five. And I know that sounds counterproductive, but what that means is if you maintain the width, there's more space for these players to run into.
So just quickly then, Dino, that cross of chaos or crosses of chaos you're talking about there, when the winger goes out wide, then this player here comes in and completes that cross.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't have to be sort of set up, but what it needs to be is, and again, I think it's the sort of naivety of youth, and they are the youngest squad in the Premier League, is that when they've got an Esteval, when he gets the ball, isn't thinking, oh, what did Maresca tell me to do? And Jamie, he's thinking, I'm going to do a lovely little trick here and beat my man 1v1. Yep. Great, let's see it, And then Jamie Gittins is not thinking, oh, I'm supposed to form the last point of the box. What he's thinking is, I want to get Pedro Porro man v man in this position and beat him. So let's be a bit more free, take the shackles off a little bit, and instead of it being, oh, he's moved out of the point of the box, I need to go into that point of the box, let's say, oh, let's cross over a little bit more and end up trying to get people doubled up in different positions. It might mean you're more susceptible going the other way, but I tell you what, it will be a more entertaining game for the benefit.
Absolutely. Right, let's move on to question number 2, Dino. I've just had a flashback, by the way. One of the comments last week, thanks so much for everyone who gets stuck in the comments. They said, excellent analysis, shocking patter, which I found extremely upsetting.
I think I told the guy to cheer up, which maybe he should, yeah.
Right, should Enzo Maresca play Joao Pedro as a striker or a number 10, Dino? What a question that one is.
It really is.
No one's really sure where he plays.
Well, I was very sure until Liam Delap got sent off last night, which was a little bit interesting because I'd done a lot of research on how you go about Chelsea playing with Liam Delap back in the team, and obviously silly red card for 2 yellows
in 7 minutes.
In 7 minutes, yeah, which obviously Maresca was very frustrated about, means that he can't play. So here's an interesting idea, right? I mentioned 3 attackers there in Esteval, in Gittins, and in Neto. I think Neto will play over here.
Have we got a rogue midfielder over
We have got a rogue midfielder, but that's where they were breaking the box, right?
Yeah.
So we've got them back in their sort of box midfield shape there. Three defenders, box midfield, and attack. Okay. So what I think, so Joao Pedro, you would naturally think will be the striker. To go back to this question, but what they've done relatively well in recent weeks is get another body in that position. So Mark, I can't pronounce his name. Pugh, right? Okay, sorry, those in the comments. I'm getting better at the
pronunciation police.
Yeah, absolutely. So he played there, which allowed Pedro to form that lovely little semicircle that I like to talk about around a striker, where if the ball comes into him this way, there's a ball there in behind, or the defender drops, there's a bounce pass back into feet for a shot. So that's Joao Pedro plays that position very, very well. So I was hoping to be talking about Liam Delap making these charging runs that he makes into those positions like that to make the space for Joao Pedro as a number 10. So what should Chelsea do in this scenario? I still think they should play Pedro as a 10. I still think that they should be brave enough in this game, knowing that Spurs will be defensive, to do that. And so therefore, play Neto one side, play either Garnacho or Gittins the other, probably Gittins, and play Pedro as a 10 with another forward. So play somebody up there. Is it playing Gittins as the 9 to run in behind and playing Garnacho over here, and that means you get Pedro into that position. The playoff for that, obviously, is they look a much better team, Chelsea, when Lavia and Caicedo play, and so therefore, are you leaving out Enzo Fernandez? Enzo Fernandez being a real key to most of their play. So that's the dilemma, and that's the dilemma he'll be looking at there. Probably what he'll do from the start is play Pedro as the number 9, not as the number 10. And if they go behind in the game or they're chasing the game, then that's another option for them to play. I like Joao Pedro in that semicircle.
Yep.
I like him bouncing around off the front man instead of being the front man. The other way he could do it is, as I say, with that chaos, is say, well, look, where they've struggled in the 3-2-5 shape is in these areas here. Okay, so actually, if you go, as I said in the last question, if you make it 4 up top instead of 5, you have a base of 3 behind it, and then you end up in that shape, okay? So you end up in an attacking shape that's 3-3-4 instead of 3-2-5. That's more space here for players to work in threes in those areas there.
Like triangles.
Yep. And in a rest defence, you know, the phrase that's in fashion this season, that means...
I'm still not certain. I'm speaking to you twice a week about tactics. I'm still not certain I know what a rest defence is.
Rest defence is exactly that. So let's show that Tottenham have win the ball back here, and they win it back in transition in one of these positions here. Somebody makes a good tackle, block tackle. If this player here is here, the rest defence is in a terrible position because, look, you've got a great counter-attack option on here.
Right,
okay?
Chelsea's rest defence.
Chelsea's rest defence. So you're not just in an attacking shape, you're in a defensive shape that means if you lose possession, you're going back the other way and you're in a good shape to defend it, okay? So I think that being in a 3-3-4 shape actually suits them better in a game like this because they can commit players into spaces and still be a little bit counter-attack resistant, but that does sacrifice the Maresca box, and I'm not sure he's going to do that.
So if Joao Pedro plays number 10 and Maresca plays someone else as the main front man, because of the box midfield, is he effectively... Would he also be required to play or do some centre midfielder tasks in a defensive role, Pedro? And has he got that in him?
Oh, he has. He works very hard. And against Liverpool, remember how well Caicedo played, and we did the Tactics Exposed review show on that, where Caicedo basically did both jobs at the base of the box. So they were in that shape there, which enabled them to get 2 players forward. And then they had Caicedo and Fernandez in those positions, which meant that, and Caicedo's job was to get in between these two and do it all by himself. He is capable of doing that because he's the best holding midfielder in the league. So if you give him a bit more responsibility of a 2-man there, ball goes this way, he slots in, Caicedo's got him, your 3-man's here, and then you overload on this side. Same the other way, and he comes in, he drops in, and he's there. But that's reliant on trusting going man v man the other way. So, look, it's risk-reward, and that's why it could be an interesting afternoon.
Fair enough, Dino. Let's move on then to question number 3. Why have Chelsea struggled to defend long throws this season? It's the season of the Rory Delap renaissance, is it not?
Not Liam Delap, Rory Delap.
Exactly, yeah. Arne Slot is among quite a few who are turning their noses up at it, saying football shouldn't be reduced to this. Well, I'm all for it. Anything that sticks it to the big teams, I am all for. But Chelsea have had particular trouble with this season, Dean.
Yeah, and you know me, I played probably 2 levels higher than I should have done for my football ability because I can throw it a long way. So you're playing right into my wheelhouse here. This is lovely.
And your ability to just launch yourself at balls in the box, attacking headers. I've never seen anything like it.
Oh, really? That's good. I know. And also, when I was a younger reporter, I covered Tony Pulis' Stoke. So
there we go.
And I was on those touchlines very, very regularly for Rory Delap. So, yes, why can't Chelsea defend it? this is going to sound very, very strange, right? It's almost that they're too committed and they're not clever enough in that sense. And you say about throwing yourself at crosses, and it's a really good point. Because what's happened in the Brentford game, in the Sunderland game, and in the Wolves game, and they need to be really, really aware of against Tottenham, is the second ball. Because it's not just about... The reason sometimes that throws are so difficult to defend is because if a corner comes in and a defender gets a first head on it, the pace on the ball from the corner is such that the ball gets headed clear.
Quite.
On a throw-in, it's much, much more difficult because you don't want to flick it because that's what they want, and you don't want to head it out for a corner because then you're defending a corner straight away. So defenders instinctively are trying to help it up the field, and then it becomes second ball. And what Chelsea have done is they've become completely sucked in. So, look, Romero is an injury doubt for this game, which means Kevin Danzo's likely to play. Okay. If Spurs play a back five, which is a possibility, as I mentioned, Danzo will play. If it's not Danzo, it'll be Bergvall or Kudus taking these long throws. Did we ever see Kudus take a long throw at West Ham?
I don't want to talk about Mohamed Kudus at West Ham.
But what Chelsea are doing is this, okay? So the setup originally is quite good, okay? One of the things you have to do on a long throw is the sandwich technique, okay? So you have to, as defensive unit, sandwich a centre forward or whatever. And this player here being the key, because if it beats this man, you're in front of this one. If it doesn't beat that, if it's not going to be as far enough for that, you're attacking the ball on this one, okay? So he's your best header of the ball in this position here, right? And then after that, where's the second ball? But what Chelsea are doing is they're getting completely sucked in. So as the throw-in is coming in from here, these players are getting sucked towards the ball. And of course, what will happen then is a player like this will think, I'm going to go and disrupt the keeper. So he goes in there, and look at that position there, and straight away you can see the problem. That is the knockdown position and the follow-up. It happened against Wolves and Sunderland, and then what happened with another cross is that they're getting sucked right in against the goalkeeper, and I know on our board that doesn't look like a lot of space, but if that drops in there, that's a huge goal-scoring opportunity. So they're finding themselves, again, much like in their attack, in a traffic jam position that they're struggling to defend.
1.52 long throw-ins per match last season, Dino. 3.99 this campaign. Do you feel at all ashamed or embarrassed that your team are employing this tactic to win points in the Premier League?
Absolutely not. I mean, I joked, or half joked, in our WhatsApp group the other day that imagine if Spurs were this good at set pieces with Ange Postecoglou, because we were bottom of the league for defending on them and in the bottom three at scoring from them. And if we'd have had this ability under Ange Postecoglou, it might have been a very different story other than 17th. Maybe we finished 15th instead of 17th. But I'm not absolutely. This is a big part of the game now. And one thing I can't, this is a bit rogue, okay? But one thing I can't quite work out is, especially on corners and long throws, is what's happening is this. These players are dropping right in, which means, I tell you what, I've got no one to pick up. I'm going to go in there as well and create more chaos. I'm going to sit here like this. And teams end up there, right? I used to shout at it all the time. What if a team did that? Okay, I've got to go.
Yep.
He's got to cover. Right, all right, let's push another one up. Oh, hang on. I've got to go. I've got to cover. Let's push another one here. Oh, hang on. I've got to go. And you end up like that. And then all of a sudden, you got 6v4.
It's very much chicken and egg, that, though, isn't it? It's a brave move to leave 3 up, and it's kind of who blinks first.
But I would say that in this game, Chelsea, this is going to be a really big talking point at the weekend. It'll either be that Chelsea's new set-piece coach has finally worked out how to do it, or he's going to be hiding on the bench because Spurs are going to score from 1 or 2. And it's not just throw-ins as well, it's corners. And although Newcastle scored from a set-piece against Spurs when Jed Spence was tying his lace, the Spurs so far this season have been very, very good at attacking and defending set pieces. Went away to Everton, barely laid a glove on Everton in an attacking sense, and won 3-0.
Well, it's good to hear that you're backing your man Thomas Pulis. Sorry, Thomas Allardyce. Sorry, Thomas Frank. Dino. Question number 4. Let's move on. That's a bit more shocking patter for you there, everyone at home. Is Xavi Simons the worst Premier League signing?
Did you write this one?
Yeah, this is finally. Yeah. I was allowed to submit a question of my own. Xavi Simons, bought in from RB Leipzig, of course. Lots of excitement around him. I watched him at London Stadium when Tottenham came to town earlier this season, and he didn't exactly tear up trees. There was a sense that he was taking a little bit of time to get used to the Premier League, as is the cliche often rolled out around new signings. But thoughts and feelings, is he the worst Premier League signing of the summer?
Well, I think there's a few Liverpool players who are competing for that tag at the moment, aren't there? They're doing their best to be the worst signing of the summer. Look, he hasn't started very well, and he was actually much better at St James's Park than he's been in recent weeks, which in a defeat is quite something. But you know, he's been very, very frustrated, and a lot of that, I've got to say, is down to the Tottenham midfield tactic and the base of the midfield.
Okay.
And that is because we've got Polinia and Bentancur in either of those positions, and neither of them have been brave enough in passing the ball forwards as often as they should. And Xavi Simons, when you watch him live in the stadium, he's very good at getting in that pocket position there.
So
okay?
what would just clear? He's the middle.
He's
man
the 10,
here,
yeah. And so I would most likely think that it'll be Kudus on one side, Odobert or Tell on the other side, and then probably Kolo Muani or Richarlison up front, and Simons will play as the number 10. So what's been happening for Spurs is that they'll push the fullbacks on, who'll get picked up by the wingers, okay? They'll set the centre-backs like that, and then Simons is trying to get the ball in there, okay? And so what then happens is Bentancur and Polinia in these positions are either sitting on top of the centre-backs and basically doing another passing job for no reason, and it's these little passes that are not going anywhere in these positions, or one of them will go and join the attack and the other one will sit between the centre-backs. Often that's been Bentancur. And Bentancur has not been brave enough in possession. And what teams are doing to Xavi Simons is they're just blocking the passing lanes to him. So Bentancur will come here, Simons will come in here, give me the ball, doesn't get it. The Spurs reset, goes back to the goalkeeper, back over this side. In that session, Polinia will drop in and receive the ball. Xavi Simons will come over here, give me the ball early. Blocks off the pass, okay? So he's really, really struggling to get on the ball in dangerous positions. At St James's Park in midweek, Spurs managed to get him the ball in transition much better, in the centre circle when the game is stretched. So when you've had an attack and the game is stretched in that position, they were getting him the ball in here for him to turn and run at opposition there, which was much, much better. But to me, it's they've just not been brave enough with the first pass. So is it that they're not quite trusting him yet and giving him the ball in those areas? And one player that's key to that is that Romero is Tottenham's best progressive passer. So if he's in that position, he will progress the ball between the lines, and Kevin Danzo's not been quite good enough. So you might get the long throw from Danzo, but you don't get the progressive pass.
If it's not working for Xavi Simons, Dino, I'm assuming Siemens isn't the approved pronunciation for that.
Is Simons, sorry, yeah. Again, pronunciation police, sorry. Xavi.
Yeah, Xavi, much better, yeah. If it's not working, what's the sub that you've been seeing from Thomas Frank, or what's the change-up that could perhaps make him a bit more effective? Or if it's just not working and he wants to swap him out, who comes on? How does it look then?
Well, then it becomes almost a front two, and you know, if he doesn't start Kolo Muani and Richarlison starts, then Kolo Muani and Richarlison become the front two with Xavi coming off. They've got lots of options in wide areas. Brennan Johnson has had a terrible start to the season, but Mohamed Kudus will play on the right. It's possible Brennan Johnson could play over here, but they've got lots of wide options on the bench, Spurs, and now they've got Kolo Muani coming to fitness. If Xavi Simons is not getting joy in those areas, then maybe go with the front two, with a more physical, mobile front two.
OK, fair enough, Dino. That makes perfect sense. And don't forget, though, with Betfair's safe sub, that your bet is not over yet. If the player you have backed gets subbed off, it rolls on to the player coming on. So if Xavi Simons gets hauled off because he's just not cutting it against Chelsea and he's replaced by Brennan Johnson, for example, whether he's having a good season or not, according to Dino, and Brennan Johnson then goes and scores and you've backed Simons, you still get paid out, which is absolutely brilliant. Right then, Dino, I think, to be fair, by the way, that's not the only pronunciation you've got wrong. It's actually pronounced Mohamed Judas, not Mohamed Kudus. Yeah. You've sort of suggested with this one, Dino, that perhaps from a scoring perspective, it might not be an absolute barnstormer, my favourite word. However, tactically intriguing. How are you seeing this one?
Yeah, it will be tactically intriguing. I mean, I think it's because Chelsea have struggled so much against deep defences. Spurs will try and do the same thing and play on the counter-attack, which doesn't bode for a brilliant watch. But Spurs are a threat at every set piece. They could score from any throw or any corner. And then in those scenarios as well, Chelsea could hit them on the break. So there's enough in it. And look, I know I would say this as a Tottenham fan, but if Spurs score early, much like I said about the Manchester United early goal in the last week, that if Spurs score early, it could open the game up for that attack v defence and then counter-attack. So look, it's normally fun, Tottenham-Chelsea.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. And do not forget that me and Dean will be back on Monday with Tactics Exposed, reviewing this game from a tactical perspective. So make sure you tune in and let us know what you think of this show in the comments.